Hi, I'm Joel Bloom, president of New Jersey Institute of Technology. At NJIT, we believe that not only our students, but all citizens need to be informed about the issues facing higher education. As New Jersey's Science and Technology University, NJIT is proud to support the important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. The Northward Center, the Turl Fund, supporting right from the start NJ, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe and by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the NJTV studio in Newark. That's the Agnes Varus NJTV studio. Pleased to be joined by our good friend, Roger León, Superintendent of the Newark Public Schools. Good to see you.
Good morning.
How tough is that job?
It's the most incredible job that I've ever had in Newark schools.
Challenging, though, because I know it's rewarding. We've talked about this before, but one of the biggest challenges you face today is?
Just establishing expectations. Everyone wants everything done immediately, which is understandably so, but everything needs to actually occur at a particular time. So people have the right ideas. It's just necessarily organizing the system so that we address the needs at the most appropriate time.
Roger, how many students are we talking about?
We have 37,000 students in Newark schools, an increase of about 800 from their previous year.
Why the increase?
Well, I think that people are understanding that the schools in Newark are designed to address the needs of their students, regardless of how their students come to schools, that we are actually impacting them in a very profound way, and people are finding that enrolling them in our Newark schools will accomplish whatever are the future dreams of their children.
So let's do this. Before we get into a range of specific issues about students' performance and other related issues, let me also share that we have a collaboration with the Newark Public Schools through a leadership program we do called Stand and Deliver for Newark Newark youth, and the public schools are involved, as well as a group of nonprofits to help those students reach their potential. That being said, I talked to you right before we got on camera. Renovating the schools themselves, huge issue.
Oh, absolutely. Our oldest school was built 10 years before Abraham Lincoln was president. And so, not only addressing their needs, but actually the request that we actually have of building new buildings all throughout the city in every single ward is an issue that is pressing us today.
Economics of that?
Definitely. So, we have bond issues that will
explain it. That's borrowing.
That's borrowing. Technically, right now, the school district, as it's moving from state control operation to local control, still the Schools Development Authority is the actual agency that builds our schools. So as we're transitioning in every aspect of it, and there's a lot of work that we will need to do and money that we will need to save to actually build our schools.
Superintendent, you have in fact brought in props.
Yes.
You have this is called NPS?
NPS Clarity 2020.
Look at you holding it up to the camera.
It's a one-year strategic plan.
It is what?
It is a one-year strategic plan.
Lay out the keys to it.
There are 12 keys that are outlined in it. It's creating a new ecosystem in Newark that will redefine its schools and how we actually service children.
A couple of the top priorities.
Well, definitely, obviously, student achievement across all of our schools is one of the goals. It's redefining what schools are. So it's beginning at conception to cradle and going beyond college and careers. It's really redefining our role in a structure that really has boxed us in worrying about babies that are 3 years old and then their senior year in high school. We do not do anything prior to them arriving in school and what they do after they've graduated from high school. So it's redefining all of the aspects of the work from when the baby is in that mommy's tummy all the way until they've landed their first
Roger,
job.
stay on that. One of our initiatives that we're doing at the Caucus Educational Corporation, together with our partners in public television, is called Right from the Start NJ. They're about to put the website up right now, focusing on child care and the needs of infants and toddlers. That's particularly relevant in a community like Newark, getting kids ready for kindergarten.
Oh, absolutely. It actually starts a little bit before the baby is actually born. So when that baby's in the tummy, how to actually educate the mom and the dad and everyone who is worrying about that baby on how to worry about their own health, worry about the health of their child, and then prepare them in their months to their first year. There are certain actions that a parent needs to do to ready their baby, talking to the tummy, letting them know how proud they are going to be when they are actually born, and then when they are actually born, making sure that all of the medical needs that child actually has are being addressed. Being a parent is a very difficult thing, and part of what the school system is redefining itself as is a role on how to work and help parents do a far better job.
Roger, stay on this. I want to get to the water situation in Newark and its relationship to the Newark Public Schools, where it's relevant and where it's not. But in terms of this report, is there another priority you want to mention other than student performance?
Well, I do want to say that the important piece of NPS Clarity 2020 is to establish a foundation that assesses the last 23 years of state operation, as well as
the state control of the Newark Public Schools.
So the Newark Schools has been controlled, as people are probably aware, for the last 23 years. Last year was the move in a transition to local control. We will actually have full local control on January of 2020. Part of what NPS Clarity 2020 does is it assesses what occurred in the past, as well as provide insight on what we need to do by establishing a strong foundation for the next decade. So what will actually come in June of 2020 is a 10-year strategic plan that really will bring about the precepts that are outlined in NPS with full local control.
Real quick follow-up on that. This report also talks about supporting teachers. Back that up.
Absolutely. So the teachers are absolutely critical. They are closest to the most significant heartbeat in our classrooms, that being the children. So the work that we do with the children, the development, the professional development that they are requiring, as well as building a pipeline. We want stronger teachers to stay in the classrooms, but we want those who can be leaders to not only do that, but to be provided unique opportunities. And they can only get that if they actually accrue their master's, get their doctorate. And not only are we providing tuition reimbursement, but we're providing incentives with a new contract to really impress upon people to go beyond their initial years of schooling.
By the way, while we're talking to the superintendent, I want to clarify, later today on State of Affairs, I'm going to be taking an interview with the Commissioner of Education in the state of New Jersey, Commissioner Repillette, and one of the issues he'll be talking about is the diversification of the teaching workforce. Real quick on the water situation. Yeah. We're also talking to Mayor Baraka today of Newark about the city's water situation. Some call it a crisis. But the Newark Public Schools they've had issues about water. Is it a separate issue, Roger?
It is. In 2016, the DEP...
Department of Environmental Protection in the state?
Approved a remediation plan that has been in play ever since. At that point in time, the district purchased industry-grade filters that are actually installed in every one of our water fountains, as well as sinks where we're actually preparing food for our children.
How do we know they're working?
That actually gets monitored every month across the whole entire school system. And if there are any problems with it, the interesting thing about this filter is that upon it not working, it shuts off the water. So we will know if it's not working because the water fountain or the faucet won't actually deliver any water to either the students or our staff members. It's been working. It's something that we obviously monitor very closely, and that is of great concern to us. And as of right now, we're doing okay.
Final question, Roger. For those who are outside the city of Newark or in urban communities throughout New Jersey and the other states we're seeing in who, quote, expect less from urban children and students in public schools, you say?
Oh, I don't think that people expect less from our schools.
Or they think they're capable of less.
I don't even know if that's actually true.
Just assume that some think that.
What I will challenge is this. If the rest of the state of New Jersey doesn't get it together, the city of Newark is going to prove that the folks that are lacking are the ones who don't live in the city of Newark. You see, what we're doing is establishing a new expectation for the children in our city, much, much higher than perhaps it has ever been experienced before. And our students are going to achieve it, which is the underlying premise of your question, that perhaps people believe that they can't. Because when Newark gets it together, what are the rest of the cities in New Jersey going to say about how they're servicing their children. I think that we're at a point poised to compete with the finest school districts in New Jersey, and we're extremely excited about working with those superintendents to accomplish just that.
Superintendent León has just laid the gauntlet down. It's a challenge. Thank you, Superintendent, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from NJTV Studios in Newark. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by Patrick Dunican, Chairman and Managing Director of Gibbons P.C. Now, Gibbons is a law firm based where compared to our NJTV studio?
Yeah, we're about a minute away. Got over here, long commute.
Yes,
1
yes.
minute today.
Patrick Dunican is with us. We've, in fact, done some leadership development at your firm with a lot of your lawyers that skew, let's say this, some of the younger lawyers, just jump right into this. How challenging is it to get lawyers, regardless of age, ready for the business of law today?
Extremely challenging.
Because?
Well, most lawyers go to law school because they enjoy the academic pursuits. Developing business is a primary skill that every lawyer needs to have in today's marketplace, and it's something that they haven't done anything with in terms of training. So that's why we go to people like you to help us out.
Well, Patrick's talking about, we actually talk to folks a lot about this whole question of developing business. For you, how much of that is a natural thing in personality, without being overly philosophical, versus something you can train for?
Yeah, you learn as you get older that developing business is all about relationship building, and that's something that you start in kindergarten. So everything you need to know, you learn in kindergarten.
Yeah, we're just actually talking to the superintendent of Newark Public Schools about those issues. Let's get into some substantive issues, and I know that the firm represents different interests, if you will, and you'll disclose that. Cannabis in New Jersey.
Cannabis.
Not legal.
It's
Personal use, recreation, not happening. Medical, yes, but we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Where are we?
It's totally illegal. Under federal law, it's illegal. It hasn't changed. So if an administration decides, like the Trump administration or his successors, decide to shut it down in all of these various states that have allowed it, it'll get shut down. It's that. So
what about states' rights?
Yeah, they have those, but they're federal law and the supremacy clause trumps states' rights. So we've stayed out of that area. A lot of my competitors are opening up, cannabis practices, but it's not legal here in New Jersey, nor is it legal under federal law.
Is it strategic to stay out of it for the firm?
That's the decision that we've made because there's great risk advising clients on how to have a cannabis business when it's totally against federal law.
The other area that there's a lot of attention on, New Jersey sports betting, once legalized, outshone, if you will, in beating Vegas.
It's been a tremendous success. We were pleased to be involved in that case. We represented the state legislature in the federal court, at the Third Circuit, and before the Supreme Court. And it was the tremendous perseverance of then Governor Christie and the legislature to get this done. And I know Governor Murphy has embraced it, and it's a tremendous, tremendous success, and it's only going to continue to grow. Watch for e-gaming. Watch for e-gaming. This is a new frontier in America and around the world, and they're selling out arenas for these people watching other people play games, video games. And I imagine the betting on those games is going to be something that takes off down the road as well.
Let's put some perspective on this. You have a couple of young children, otherwise known as your children, who are involved in sports. Explain to folks where the sports betting begins and ends as it relates to professional sports and sports at the collegiate or high school level or any level that is not professional.
Right. So under our law in New Jersey, it's illegal to bet on any New Jersey sports teams, and that will probably remain the case.
New Jersey sports teams.
That's right. That's right. So you can't place a wager on, say, Rutgers or Seton Hall basketball. Seton Hall's preseason number 12, by the way, in basketball.
I know. We are both fans of Seton Hall. Your connection to law school is very clear. So that's where the line is there. What I'm also curious about is this. We've talked about the business of law. You and I have this conversation off the air a lot. How is it, quote, changing as opposed to, you talked about knowing the law is one thing, but how the heck do you manage the business of law in these difficult, challenging times?
Yeah, it's is a very difficult time to be a lawyer at a large firm like mine. It's extremely competitive. The pushback on rates or fees is something that we endure every single day. The demand for discounts. Most of my clients tell me they're going to pay my bill 120 days after presentment of the bill. So these are very difficult times to be a lawyer, and it's getting even more and more challenging.
I mentioned the connection to Seton Hall Law School. What I'm curious about, and it's a big picture question, to what degree are law schools training lawyers for the legal profession of today and, more importantly, for tomorrow?
Well, I know at Seton Hall we've put in a class called the Law of Lawyering, all right? Very much practical skills training for lawyers. You know, a lot of the law schools are simply teaching, you know, the black letter law of the main core classes. We've taken that a little bit further and said, you know what? Let's train these kids to, once they get out into practice, to be more practical.
There's an award that you and I talked about, Tip O'Neill. For those of you, Google Tip O'Neill, member of Congress, Speaker of the House during the Reagan years, represented a district up in Massachusetts. There's a Tip O'Neill Award that you'll be receiving in Ireland itself. What is the award? Why is it connected to Tip O'Neill? And why is it so important?
So the County of Donegal is recognizing me, along with 3 others who I'll mention in a second, to receive this Tip O'Neill Award, which was started in 2012 by this group in Donegal to recognize the diaspora, the people that are descended from people from Donegal. So my maternal grandfather is from Donegal, as was Tip O'Neill's grandparents. So people like Chris Matthews from MSNBC,
right?
Governor O'Malley from Maryland, along with this year's recipients, myself, the author of Someone Who'll Watch Over Me, the CEO of Independence Blue Cross of Philadelphia, as well as a Dublin-based developer, Pat Doherty, really extraordinary business people. And it's done to recognize those who are making contributions around the world and connected to the County of Donegal in some way. It's a tremendous honor.
It sure is. By the way, Gibbons is also a supporter of public broadcasting and very much has been interested in the importance of public discussion of difficult issues. Before I let you go, the tone and tenor of political discourse in this state and this nation. You know who Donald Trump is. You guys have had a connection in the past. You know who Chris Christie is, who's just started an institute on civility at Seton Hall University. Are we getting worse, Patrick, in terms of the way Democrats, Republicans, and those who seemingly hate each other are battling in public?
I think there's no doubt, and that's why Governor Christie has started the Christie Institute to try to improve the level of discourse. Of course, that's ironic, given some of what Christie
We'll have him on to talk about that irony as well.
And then if you look at the way Senator Booker has handled his presidential campaign, he's really raised the level of discourse, and he's trying to do that and continues to. And I think he sets an example for how we need to go back to the type of politics practiced by Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan.
It's funny, as we let Patrick go, Tip O'Neill, a Democrat, a liberal Democrat, Ronald Reagan, Republican icon, they got along. They connected on a personal level. Thank you for sharing that. Patrick Dunican, Chairman, Managing Director, Gibbons P.C. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
This is State of Affairs. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
State of Affairs welcomes Regina Egea, who is president of Garden State Initiative. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Tell everyone what Garden State Initiative is.
Sure, it's a nonprofit think tank focused on public policies on economic matters here in the state.
Let's get to economic matters. One of the things that strikes me about what you've put out and your colleagues is that New Jersey's gross domestic product compared to Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania, we're behind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S.
How far?
Well, we are half of New York and almost half of the U.S. So U.S. is growing at 3.1%. We were 1.8, tied for dead last.
Because?
Well, because we aren't, really putting the policies in place that'll encourage more investment from businesses and grow jobs and grow values here in the state.
Governor Murphy is out as we actually do this program. I believe he's in India, part of a trade mission going out there. I mean, he's out there promoting the state. Does it take more than that?
Of course it does, right? We have to have economic environment as well as a regulatory environment that will be attractive to businesses because, you know, one of the things we all have to accept is we're in a dogfight right now, right, for both jobs and residents against the other states, and we have to be much more attractive than we are versus our near neighbors.
What makes us less attractive in the view of your organization?
Well, certainly the tax burden, right? I mean, we are at the bottom or the bottom decile of every list of the cost of running a business, the cost of living, property taxes, you name it. So the cost to operate here is just, you know, falling behind really other states.
So it's not, are you saying, Regina, that's not good enough to say New Jersey, ... open for business? That slogan just doesn't work?
Well, no, right, because, I mean, as I said...
Without the policies.
Yeah,
as you see them.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, the other states around us, right? Look at the income tax rate in Pennsylvania, right? 3.3%.
Ours is?
Ours is 8.97.
Governor says we should raise taxes. By the way, we will get the governor, I assure you. The governor says we need to raise taxes on millionaires in order to fund public schools, public employee pension crisis, other state services. You say?
Right. There are a lot of things we should be investing in, but we should be growing the economy to enable that investment, not continually drawing down on the current, you know, incomes that people have. And, you know, New York, right, their corporate tax rate, 6%. We just raised ours, right? We have a surcharge on businesses now, 11.5%.
But by the way, what is it in Florida?
Well,
I'm joking. I'm joking. By the way, they don't have one. Just to clarify, they don't have one.
Well, Steve, I think you know too, right? The #2 state for outmigration from New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Not. Wait a minute. Florida's number one.
Florida, right?
Pennsylvania, right across the border.
2. That's right. I mean, you can.
So it's not the weather.
Exactly.
It's not only the weather.
Exactly. You can stay near your family and friends and have a much more attractive cost.
Except we're not promoting that. Let's do this. You've talked about, it's called adding it all up. This is a path to saving $2 billion for what? And what does that have to do with our roads and bridges that are crumbling?
Right. So we took a step back at GSI and really thought about what is the total spend in New Jersey on all government. If we add it all up, right, county spending, municipal spending, state spending, the total is $117 billion, right, all public spending. And we looked at certain subjects and said, could we find economies where we could save money but continue to provide great services in the state?
Where are the economies?
So our most recent report is on transportation, which is really roads and streets and bridges. And, you know, we looked at other states, again, competitively, you know, looking at other states. And in Massachusetts, they've done consolidation. They've saved them tremendous amounts of money. Of operations, right, of different groups that are performing plowing and maintenance on the roads. Pennsylvania did a P3, a private-public partnership, for rapid bridge replacement. And they believe that they're going to replace 500 bridges in 10 years sooner than the DOT could get to it in Pennsylvania, and the maintenance costs will be 40% less. So we can learn stuff from other states, and we should employ those learnings in our state and improve.
So you're saying that just having a government agency do it itself, it may not, in the view of the organization and your research, is not the most efficient and effective way of getting it done?
Well, I think there are lots of different ways to both plan and execute.
But you're talking about partnerships outside of government doing
Oh, yes, the P3. Yeah, definitely.
Is there something slow about government you're implying?
Well.
By the way, disclose, you know a little bit about government?
Yes.
Your previous position?
I served in Governor Christie's administration, both as his chief of staff and the treasurer's chief of staff. But I was also elected locally in the Township Committee and Board of Ed.
Let's do this. What I'm curious about is not just New Jersey tax policy, but you mentioned regulation.
Yep.
One regulation that, in the view of your organization, gets in the way of, and by the way, a lot of these regulations, some other folks will say, contrary to Regina says, we need to protect folks from what business might otherwise do. Yeah. One regulation that you say is not only helping the public, but is hurting New Jersey attract business or keep.
I'll give you an example that a business leader gave to me. Right, he was setting up a new subsidiary, and he looked to set the subsidiary up in New Jersey, Virginia, and North Carolina. And to set up an entity in our state, in the other states, I should say, Virginia, North Carolina, one was 9 pages of information they wanted, and the other state was 14 pages of information they wanted. New Jersey, take a guess how many pages we needed. 57 pages of information just to set up an entity. That's what the business leader was asking me.
So I want to be clear here. You're saying that New Jersey, beyond the tax policies, beyond property taxes, corporate tax, income tax, that just setting up a business is more complicated because of the process itself. And And devil's advocate, some might say, we need all that documentation to know what that subsidiary is doing so that we can, quote, protect the consumers, you say?
I say other states don't, and they're prospering much more than we are. I think we can learn from other states.
Have you had a direct conversation with Governor Murphy about his policies and how you see them? And
I have not personally. I'd welcome it.
so Regina Egea is the president of Garden State Initiative. By the way, folks go on your website, which we put up a couple times during this segment. What can they find?
All of our research, as well as we put out a blog and news that's relevant to economic matters here in the state.
And real quick, funding for the organization comes from?
Both foundations and individuals only. We don't accept any funding from businesses because we really are nonpartisan and focused on economic matters.
Regina Egea, President, Garden State Initiative, has joined us. I want to thank you for being with us. By the way, check out a column I write in New Jersey Monthly. We also did a feature on your organization as well. Regina, thank you for joining us. This is State of Affairs. We're coming to you from the NJTV Agnes Ferris studio. Keep the conversation going, so join me on Twitter. Do you even know my Twitter handle? It's at Steve Adubato. I know, we talked the other day. Check you out next week. Thanks so much.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, NJIT, PSC&G, the Northward Center, the Turl Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe, and by New Jersey Monthly.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.